Hey, buddy.
Hi, friends. Well, from gorgeous Salt Lake City, Utah,
It's Thank God I'm Atheist.
a podcast exploring religion, politics, and current events from two atheists just trying to survive life in the United States.
I'm Frank Feldman.
And I'm Dan Beecher.
And coming up on the show today, Dan, we're asking ourselves the question, do Christians and atheists even speak the same language?
Right? Look, I think we're communicating with each other when we talk to Christians or when they talk to us. And
I think you'd be wrong, Dan, to think that.
I don't think that we are. I think that we might not be. And I think it's probably really important to figure that out. So
yeah. And we have all of the solutions as always. Yeah. We'll be presenting those to you on the second half of the show. Did you have something else to add, Dan?
So I'm just going to say the second half of the show, Frank and Dan Save America. So you're welcome, everybody.
If people would just listen to us.
Right?
We have all the answers. All right. Well, first, before we get to the second half of the show, there's a first half of the show.
Wow. Okay.
Woo-hoo, we're going to do it.
I like that we're doing it in order. That's good.
So some stuff happened this week. People said things and did things, and we're going to talk about it. All right. Here's something that somebody said. Pope Francis. The wonderful, liberal, amazing Pope Francis, right?
That bastion of papistry.
Oh, he's such a breath of fresh air for the Catholic Church. And he's just so supportive of the gay community and the trans community. We've talked about this on the show, Dan. He's made such headways. And then the door closes and he starts talking. And behind closed doors this week, the Pope Francis, he was talking about Catholic seminary, right? Like people becoming priests.
Right.
And he sort of was saying that maybe we don't need gay priests because the seminary, there's already so much faggotry or faggotness, I think is how they were translating it, in the seminary, which is an amazing statement all by itself.
Well,
right? Except for the fact that he used this word frocagine. And maybe should there have been a trigger warning that we were going to be using the word faggot?
Too late now. Sorry.
Not a nice word.
Retroactive trigger warning.
I don't know if those work. But yeah, I was unfamiliar with this word, but apparently it's a Roman Italian dialect word, frocagine.
You never used that word when you were in Rome?
No, it never really came up.
Interesting.
However, the Pope, he's a man of the world. Also, Italian's not his first language.
Yeah.
Right.
He literally had to pick that one up.
Yeah. And this is something that the Vatican, in his defense, sort of was, the people who were speaking in his defense were like pointing out, this isn't his first language. He confuses words. One of the local newspapers, a major Italian newspaper, was sort of pointed out the fact that he has verbal gaffes in Italian, right? His Italian's not perfect.
Sure. But here's the thing. You don't gaff your way into like a horrific slur.
No, you learned it from someone, right? Like you've heard this word being tossed around clearly because you picked it up. Yeah. Meaning, and the Pope doesn't just spend a lot of time with taxi drivers and plumbers, right?
No.
Like he picked this up from cardinals and Vatican staff, right?
Exactly.
And so I'm just like, cool. So what this exposes to me isn't so much this dark spot, this stain on the Pope's soul. It it exposes something about the Vatican itself, that this is the language that is used behind closed doors and behind the closed doors behind those closed doors. Right.
Yeah.
Because this got out because it was it wasn't a public meeting, but these were seminarians, right? These were not Vatican personnel.
Right.
And somebody was recording it and then slipped it to a newspaper's, a media source in Rome that's quite critical of the Vatican.
Yeah.
That's their main beat, is they cover the Vatican, and they don't hold back when they need to criticize. And then it fed out from there to the national media. And it's worth pointing out that Francis, this is the Pope that has endorsed blessings for same-sex couples, right?
Yeah.
He's approved or transgender people serving as godparents, right? At baptisms.
Yeah.
We talked about this on the show. He welcomed a large group of transgender women to the Vatican. Right. Some of whom he's basically befriended, right? Like he has like conversations regularly with a couple of the people from this group. He's backed secular civil unions for same-sex couples. And he has said that being homosexual is not a crime, right? And yet
those are concrete things. Those are real concrete things.
And that's good. But at the end of the day, he's an 87-year-old man. And he has his, his hangups clearly. Yeah. It's clearly identified as not a nice word in Italian. And what it translates to in English is obviously not very nice. And then what he was saying about, also, what is he saying about seminary? That he's like, there's already so much faggotness in the seminary.
Guess what,
without
Francis?
us adding gay people to the mix.
If you get rid of gay priests, you will have no clergy. Like that is the refuge for, like, I mean, I got to think, the percentage of the general population that's gay is what, 5% or 3%,
whatever it
like
is.
That.
Yeah, sure.
I gotta think that the Catholic priest percentage is well over double digits.
Yeah, I mean, it's
got to be 25%. It's got to be a quarter of them.
As a formerly very religious person, right? Somebody who grew up very religious and gay. Like, I get it, right? Like, you're trying to find some sort of escape, right? And
the church is meaningful to you,
right? And
you're not allowed to be gay,
right? And the great thing that the Catholic Church has, from a young gay person's perspective, if I just sort of project myself in there, there's no expectation for you to go have sex with a woman,
right? You're
just let off the hook, right? As far as that whole thing. And so it's like, well, this seems kind of like a perfect fit. Yeah. I don't want to have sex. I don't want to get married, right? And have sex with a woman and make kids. That's not what I want to do, right? I want to have sex with men, right? But I don't want to do that because I'm Catholic. Yeah. Right. I've been taught that that's wrong. Well, let me just go to this place where I can feel safe and be surrounded by men.
Yeah.
It's not a smart move.
But the whole thing is dumb from top to toe. But I get
the logic. I get the initial logic.
Yeah. What I don't get is the logic of saying, oh, we should have fewer gay men. Because look, your clergy is composed of like 3% people who were guys who just felt really called to be to serve a spiritual life.
It's 3%.
It's 3% them, and then the rest of it is gay men and incels. That is what you've got. And trust me, you want to keep the gay men, not the incels.
I could see there being some asexuals in there too.
Sure.
Right.
That's absolutely. Absolutely.
They're just like, well, I mean, this is, sure. I'm hearing a calling. Right.
I can do this.
Yeah. this seems like the world for me. I don't even want sex.
Yeah.
Right.
All right. I'm gonna move us from the grandeur of the Vatican to the grandeur of somewhere in Texas, where
So grand.
where what? Yeah, it is Fort Worth. There you go. The grandeur of Fort Worth, Texas, home of the Southwestern Baptist Theological Seminary. We're back on seminaries, but this isn't a Catholic seminary.
Yeah.
This is a Baptist seminary, which is probably worse somehow. I don't know how, but like at least it's co-ed, which is good, I suppose. But unfortunately, when you've got a co-ed school, you're going to have, and oh God, another trigger warning. This is for SA folks, so you can skip ahead if you need to. But you're going to have some sexual assault issues on campus. And that's not the question for the school. It doesn't reflect badly on the school, just that they have had sexual assault on their campus. But what would reflect badly on a school is if they handled it terribly. And shockingly, the SBTS did not do a good job in multiple instances because they're following in the tradition of sweeping sexual assault and sort of things that would make them look bad under the rug. So apparently, what happened in this case is, and there's some new details that have come up. This case has been going on for a minute. The FBI has been investigating, and apparently the storyline here is that the school's dean of women, who's a woman named Terry Stovall, had somehow learned about an alleged sexual assault by a student and reported it to campus police, and then also took a record of that, of her engagement with it, because you do that. That's what you do. Apparently the campus police did nothing, did not do a goddamn thing. So that's shameful and awful. And then a few months later, regular police stepped in and actually did something. But when that happened, kind of everybody wanted to know, well, what happened on campus? At which point, the president of the college, of the seminary, his chief of staff, which, calm down, you're not president of the country. That's your executive assistant or whatever. Anyway, his chief of staff apparently heard about Stovall's documentation of the events and told her to, quote, make it go away. Now, the college is not saying
that
this,
is
but
wrong.
It seems pretty clear that that's probably an order that came from the president himself. But they're not saying that, so I have no basis for that. We'll just say that it's the chief of staff that said that.
Oh my God, that's not good. I'm sitting here, I'm thinking about it. I mean, at least they know it's bad
now. Well, they know it's
sexual assault is bad.
Yeah, but like, they don't really know why.
Yeah, no,
they don't know why it's bad.
There you go.
They understand that it's bad.
Somebody told them once. They've heard people react strongly to accusations of sexual assault, and so they know it's bad. But yeah, you're right. They don't know why it's bad.
So they just want it to go away. They just don't want it to be associated with them, because then they're associated with a bad thing.
It's true. Oh God, it's so terrible.
It's so bad. So yeah, there have been investigations, allegations of wrongdoing, and I mean, this is the tradition, right? you handle things very terribly, and then apparently you throw your chief of staff under the bus.
That's what a chief of staff is for.
Right?
That's why you have one.
Yeah. He'll get a special, like, he'll get like extra ride tickets in heaven though for taking the fall.
Yeah. All right, Dan. Just up from Texas, we got ourselves some Oklahoma.
Oh, goody.
Oh, my favorite place in the world.
Yeah, where the wind comes sweeping down the plain.
And hopefully just blows the whole thing away.
Right?
Everybody, people who don't know, I spent an unfortunate amount of my life in Oklahoma. So, growing up and all. Oklahoma, where the schools, Dan, will now, thanks to House Bill 1425, which just passed the Oklahoma Senate. Let's see, 38-7. And then that was back in April. And then just this last Wednesday, it passed the House much more narrowly, 51-40, where they have made it a requirement for, what do you call them, school boards to allow schools to excuse students from attendance to go to off-site religious studies classes.
They're finally as good as Utah.
Woohoo! They did take so this has been common practice in Utah with Mormons for time immemorial, right? Like this is how it's pretty much always been. Right next to every high school, there's a little LDS church building, the seminary, right?
Yeah.
And the Mormon kids can take an hour off from taking like an elective, right? And go take a religion class. And, but Oklahoma's taking it one step further. Under this law, students would receive credit for the classes.
Oh,
which is ridiculous.
Yeah.
That's like, there's one thing to say, okay, we're going to let kids for 1 hour a day, go and do an outside class. Right.
Yeah.
That's one thing. Right. I don't love it. I don't think it's great. It doesn't seem to hurt the non-religious students. Right. In Utah, they get to go take an art class or something. Right. So it doesn't seem to be hurting things too bad. This is all apparently, I had never heard of this. There was a 1952 U.S. Supreme Court ruling that is what sort of allows for this, right?
Okay.
And they said at the time that to let a kid, take an hour out of school to go do this doesn't violate the Establishment Clause. Right? Okay. I don't know, but that's what it's all sort of going back to. So this is something that public schools can do this. Public school systems can do this. Let's see, there's other things. Students have to have parental permission to participate, and the schools, no school funding can go toward transportation or to like actually fund the program itself. Like the groups offering these things have to come up with that themselves. So at least there's that. What is interesting though is that it was in the House, it was kind of really fucking debated. And like I said, it was 51-40, and you had Republicans and Democrats on both sides of this issue.
Right.
People pointing out all of the obvious problems.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I mean, to me, it sounds like, if I were, even some of the Republicans are probably looking around like, we're being sketchy as fuck right now. We all know this, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I think their big problem is allowing school credit for this activity. I mean, that's where they're going to get themselves in trouble. And that's where, as one legislator pointed out, that the bill is setting up the school boards to be sued.
Absolutely. But they love doing that. That's like their favorite.
If they had just held back on that, they would have gotten away with this probably just fine.
And I would have gotten away with it too if it hadn't been for you meddling kids.
Yeah, but that's good old Oklahoma for you, taking just one more step to be as awful as they can.
Yeah, we'll have more stories about horrors in U.S. education later on in the show.
Also, as somebody who did go to public school in Oklahoma, granted, it was a while ago, but you don't need to let the kids out of school right. in order for there to be plenty of religious indoctrination happening during the school day.
It's just not enough, Frank. It's never enough.
The teachers couldn't shut their goddamned mouths up about Jesus at my school.
Yeah. That sounds right.
Except for Mr. Nations.
Oh, Mr. Nations.
Mr. Nations. Turned out he was a gay man.
Oh.
And an English teacher.
Well, that's
never happened before in the history of public schools.
Nope, never. Okay. By the way, I do think I made a sort of dopey Scooby-Doo joke earlier, but I'm realizing that I think that Old Man Carruthers being unmasked as the guy behind all of the spooky ghosts might be the best metaphor for what's happening in the American right wing right now that there is. And we're all just like running around and everybody's terrified of all the spooky ghosts, and it was the GOP the whole time. All right. America, look, America is not great. You and I, for anyone who's interested in becoming a patron of our show, Frank and I do a Frank and Dan diary every week. There's extra bonus content every week for patrons at a certain level. So, skip on over there and become a patron if you want to. But one of the things that we talked about is you castigated me for saying that America sucks because you're saying there are things about it that suck, but it's still kind of a great country to live in.
Yeah, well, and also like there's 180, 190 countries in the world. For it to suck, it's got to be like way at the bottom.
Okay. We're at the bottom for a few things, but you're right. But I will talk about a country that is really going through it right now, and that is Haiti. Which recently, their president was assassinated, and like literally roving violent gangs have gone out of their way to try and take over the country. Things are not going well there. Yeah. It's bad, and it's rough, and they need help. But I'll tell you what they don't need. What they don't need is an adorable young 20-somethings white couple from Oklahoma to move there and teach them about Jesus. But
they don't need that?
They don't need that. And when they got it, in the form of Davy and Natalie Lloyd.
Oh, they said just the names.
Right? It's the cutest of names. And look, I don't want to make light of this. They've been murdered. Oh. Davy and Natalie were killed on this trip.
Dan, you're supposed to make me laugh.
They're dead. Here's the thing. Missionary work is bullshit. And they went out because they thought they could help, but they weren't even like it. I don't get the sense. It's hard for me to parse out exactly what they were doing over there. They were working with an organization that had schools, but the schools have basically been closed because of the violence.
Yeah.
And they had these other things. They had like residence homes, but I get this. I think, but they were there as missionaries, and they moved there, which here's the thing that I am so conflicted about, because these people clearly wanted to do something good for a country that they know is in trouble. And that what they ended up doing was something profoundly stupid. Like, just as bad an idea as you could possibly have, and their faith community supported them in this instead of talking them out of it and saying, no, this is a terrible idea.
Okay.
And I think that that's awful. I think that right now, you know, especially here in the US, we all feel pretty helpless when it comes to some terrible things happening out in the world.
Yeah.
But we shouldn't go there. Like, white saviors are not what is needed in these places.
Yeah.
It's, you know what I mean? Like, and that's not even, like, that term is sort of racially coded, and it makes sense for it to be, but it's not even about the race thing. It's just, you know, people from a wealthy country are not what's needed in countries that have problems. Like, you just become another problem for them to deal with.
Yeah.
So that sucks. And it really sucks that these kids were killed, apparently by what was described as, they were kidnapped first by a gang of 3 trucks full of guys.
Good Lord.
And yeah, taken away and then subsequently killed. I think the idea was originally that they were going to be ransomed. I don't know what went wrong in that, but
yeah, I mean, whatever goes wrong with it, I mean, it's such a great plan to start with, right? Like,
yeah,
of course it's, yeah. Anyway, yeah, that's awful. Yeah, I guess the only thing you can really point out is that they just should not have been there in the first place.
They should never have been there.
Yeah.
They should never have been anywhere near there. Yeah. Well, you know, the Caribbean is nice. Go somewhere.
Right, but Haiti's a disaster.
Yeah,
like an absolute disaster right now. Like, and
there's no excuse for
two cute kids just aren't going to get anything done that's going to be meaningful in any way.
Yeah, and like, we Americans who don't understand we don't understand the culture, we don't understand the background, we don't understand anything of what's going on there, except sort of only the broadest of strokes.
Yeah.
We're not going to be able to contribute meaningfully.
Right. But the thing is, and they might have been even aware of that, but that's the problem with a calling from God.
Yes.
Right? That's like against all reason, against all rational thought. Anybody telling you that this is just a bad idea, it doesn't matter, because if they're going on a mission to a place like Haiti, they heard the call, right? Yeah. Like, I haven't read the article, but I can just tell you they were following a calling from God, right? To go and do good in the world. And that's, boy, it's a recipe for disaster. And we,
yeah.
Like, yeah. Well,
at best, you know, you've just sort of done a complicated job helping a few people while not really changing anything.
Well, but the thing is that because of this calling, they think that that God will give them skills that they just don't have, right? Like, right. What was that documentary? I don't even know if we ever talked about it on the show, but the young woman who went to I want to say Ghana.
Oh yeah, we talked about it.
Yeah,
where she basically ended up thinking she was a doctor.
Yeah. And it's absolute insanity. It's a great documentary, worth picking out. I haven't
seen the documentary about it. We picked up the story several years ago.
Oh, the documentary is fun. Well, not fun. It's absolutely horrible story, but it's a pretty well done documentary, and it leaves you in a very interesting mindset because she was definitely wrong to go do it, but nobody really comes out as there are no heroes, right? And there's a lot of different players in the story. It's actually really good. I wish I had the title at the top of my head so I could recommend it. But anyway, I bet you could find it. Ghana missionary doctor documentary. Search for that. You'll find it.
All right. Let's keep going because we got to get away from the depressing part of the show.
Oh, well, Dan.
God damn it.
No, it's Pride, everybody.
Oh, okay. Hooray.
Pride is happening this month. And
the Pope is saying gay slurs. It's Pride. Hooray. Yeah.
Let's see. I'm going to go to Los Angeles. What could go wrong with Los Angeles and Pride? I guess if you throw into the mix a Christian lifeguard, that works for the city of Los Angeles and their public beaches. And he's actually worked for the city for like 22 years. His name is Jeffrey Little, and he is suing the city of Los Angeles for severe emotional distress.
Oh, severe. Wow.
Severe. That's a quote, severe emotional stress, end quote, after he was stationed near a pride flag last year.
One shudders to imagine the emotional distress of such a thing.
Horrible.
Look at all the colors he had to see.
He tried to get his to be stationed at one of so apparently, to back up slightly, Los Angeles, by some sort of decree of the city, said at all of our buildings for Pride Month, we're going to be flying the pride flag. Right. So that meant City Hall. Right. That meant
no wonder it's such a debauched city.
It meant City Hall. It meant their public works facilities, so forth and so on. Well, also the lifeguard stands have little flag posts on them. And so that department decided to follow the decree and put up pride flags. But not
because it's fun.
It is
you
fun.
Ding dongs.
But apparently some of the lifeguard stands do not have flagpoles.
Okay.
And so he requested that he could just be stationed at one of those.
Can I be at one of the not queer ones?
Which, to be honest, like, if those do exist,
I feel okay with him requesting that.
No, I don't. I think that he just exposed something not very good about himself. One, he's a homophobe, and two, he's fragile somehow.
Deeply, terrifyingly fragile.
Like, so I mean, as his boss, I would be like, Jeffrey, okay, sure. Let's do that for you. Right.
That we also cover therapy, right? Our insurance is pretty good.
Like, I feel like I would just have been like, it's not, let's just not write down the reason why you're going to be at that station. Let's do that.
Yeah.
Nonetheless, his superiors did not go along with that request.
Yeah.
So he took down, and this is probably where he really, really, truly did cross the line. He took down a bunch of pride flags.
Of course he did.
And he was disciplined. So this is what he's accusing the department of. Quote, religious discrimination, retaliation. He alleges that officials did not substantively engage with his objections.
Correct.
And instead threatened discipline and eventual termination for failure to raise the pride flag.
Yeah, because you were insolent in your job. All you had to do was nothing.
Yeah, because
but you did something.
The displaying of a pride flag by your employer, the city.
Yeah.
I just don't know how that's infringing upon your religious beliefs. I'm trying to replace this in a different context, and I'm just struggling with it. Like, I just don't, I like to try to see the perspective, right? Even if I end up still disagreeing with it. I just think it's a good exercise, and I can't recontextualize this. I really can't figure out how this hurts him so much.
I can. It doesn't.
Oh, yeah.
It doesn't hurt him so much. This is all language ginned up by whatever American family values, whatever, that's actually paying for him to sue the county.
Yeah. Well, and also, you're totally right. The story made it around to somebody who was like, oh, you're an opportunity, aren't you? Yeah. Anyway, he typically, and this is really interesting to me, he typically works at Will Rogers Beach, which apparently has been considered a safe space among LGBTQ plus beachgoers for quite some time. In fact, the beach is so popular with the queer community that it's nicknamed the Ginger Rogers Beach.
Oh my God. He got stationed at the gay beach. That's why he's mad.
No, but that's where he normally works. That's where he worked before this ever came up. Right.
Yeah.
And so maybe you're right that like the flag was finally just a step too far, but like he's also been interacting with and protecting members of the LGBTQ community. Right.
Yeah. Against his will.
Clearly against his will, but he was okay with that. It was something about this damned pride flag, and more likely the whole the ginning up of it, as you say, by some lawyers. So,
all right. Well, I'm very sorry. It's very sad for him.
Indeed.
What a sad story. I'm going to take us to the American South, where I have two stories related to your earlier story, actually, in Oklahoma.
Oh, okay.
Not the same, but look, we cover it all the time, but the Christian right in the United States is working their asses off to get Christianity into the schools.
Yeah.
And to get logic and reason out.
Yeah.
So here's the so I've got two stories that I wanted to talk about. The first one is coming out of Texas, where this is Hemant Mehta reported on this, and basically they're just doing everything they can to figure out how to sneak a little bit of Christianity in there. And the latest thing that they're doing is they'll take tests or questionnaires or whatever, and they'll put in a quote from some stuff for fifth graders that included a unit called Juneteenth and Beyond. Okay. That's actually a great start.
Yeah,
awesome that they're talking about Juneteenth in school. That we didn't talk about that in my day, and that's great. And then they have a quotation from Martin Luther King Jr.'s letter from a Birmingham jail. Again, great. We're going well. Things are going well. And then they zero in on a part of that letter where Martin Luther King Jr. basically was talking about civil disobedience, because the letter is addressing the call for people, from people even on his side to say, hey, chill out, stop doing so much civil disobedience, and just let's just work through the proper channels and blah, blah, blah. And his response to that is, no, we're not, that's just waiting, and we're not going to wait. We're going to do stuff. And he likens it to the Bible story in the book of Daniel of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego refusing to obey the laws of Nebuchadnezzar and blah, 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 blah. So they include that in there, and then they focus in on it. They make sure that the kids have to answer questions about that particular part of it, which isn't a part that anybody else, like, who studies it or who cares about that letter really cares about. That's just, it's just one analogy.
Right.
But yeah, this thing, like, they are asked a question, that says, why did Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. reference the story of Daniel in his letter from a Birmingham jail? Making sure that they have to focus on it. It's those sorts of things. And then, a supplemental thing went out that like talked about who Nebuchadnezzar was and blah, blah, blah.
Right.
So that's one way to sneak stuff in. In Florida, they're doing something different. They've gotten very clever. They've realized you can't directly teach children about Christian-y stuff, or at very least on the state level, you can't be seen to be injecting Christianity directly into the education system. But you can apparently teach the teachers Christian nationalism and then just hope that they take it from there. So the teachers have been going to this. They set up a bit of it was like a education for the teachers thing. It was a training seminar.
Right.
And then they paid the teachers to go to it, saying that they'd receive $700 to do this training and then would be eligible for a $3,000 bonus if they did a few additional tasks, probably pray to Jesus and do a rosary or something. And unfortunately, this training was set up, developed in part by Hillsdale College, which is a conservative Christian school that is associated with sort of David Barton and all this stuff, the pretend historian who likes to act as though everything, all of the founding fathers of America based everything on Jesus and whatever. Mm-hmm. And another group that was helping was the Bill of Rights Institute, which was a Koch brothers founded institution. Anyway, we have some of the slides that were presented at this teacher training that included things like conditions for independence. They're talking about the independence of America. And it starts with a slide that says misconception. The founders desired strict separation of church and state, and the founders only wanted to protect the freedom of worship. It is not a misconception that the founders wanted strict separation of church and state, which is why they put it in the documents. Mm-hmm. But they have another slide that talks about self-government. And yes, the Americans wanted self-government, but here are the bullet points that they put on there. Self-government, let's see if you can follow the logic.
Okay, yeah.
Self-government requires a people committed to civic and moral virtue. Moral virtue, interesting. Mm-hmm. Religion was the inculcator for virtue.
Oh, Jesus. Yeah.
Christian principle of covenant with God reflected in Locke's social compact theory. Wow. They don't back that up. At least on the slides, I'm sure they had their reason for that. But literally, they're just making statements without backing it. Like self-government requires a people committed to civic and moral virtue. No, it doesn't.
So
that's not how that works.
Yeah, I'm confused as to how a public employer, right, can require their employees, the teachers, to go to a religious training.
Again, it's not required, but you get paid a huge bonus if you go. And this is not considered religious. Oh my God. There's also a slide that says, where do rights come from? And then has a little quote that says, endowed by their creator with certain inalienable rights. Yeah.
If they're paying you though, I'm sorry, it just seems like there's a real that there is a violation there.
Oh, I agree.
That some teachers need to be fighting.
Yeah.
Because
and this has been going on, like it happened in 2022.
Yeah.
And then they made it worse in 2023. So yeah, this is happening. Yeah. I think if we had a reliable court system that would put a stop to this, that would be great. But I don't think anybody's going to bother to bring to take this to the court system, because if it gets to the Supremes, they'll enshrine it in law that this is fine.
Yeah. All right.
So yeah, it's a tricky moment in American history. It's bad. It's bad.
Yeah. All right.
Well, if you would like to tell us about how badly educated you are in your country, whether that's here or abroad, feel free to write into us, podcast@thankgodimatheist.com.
Or call and leave us a voicemail message. The telephone number is 424-666-8442. Stick around, there's more show coming up.
Well, Frank, we had some folks write into us, and so let's get straight to that. This is from Nick, who says, "Hi, Frank and Dan. On your last show, you addressed how the nuns and atheist numbers for Gen Z have been backsliding a bit. This has been a worry of mine for a long time. I see how many people are becoming non-religious, and I want to feel hopeful, but at the same time, it seems like the minute someone becomes non-religious, they stop having kids. I'm as conflicted as Frank when it comes to this, because the world is severely overpopulated, but it would be nice if more kids were raised atheist. I guess all we can rely on is educating people properly and hoping they see the obvious reality of the world as they get older."
And with our public schools, that doesn't seem very...
don't look to the public schools, but that's what the internet is for, I guess. I see a lot of atheists and ex-Mormons online mention how they tiptoe around religious discussions and shut their mouths when around family, coworkers, or friends. I think a little more exposure and authenticity would help religious people understand that if the people they love and work with are are atheists, that is sometimes enough to shake good people awake. Similar to the LGBTQ revolution, if enough people are open and honest about it, the good people around them will start to come around. You and I have been talking about that for a long time, Frank.
Visibility is huge. It's key.
But it's never bad to remind everybody.
Yeah.
So yes, if you are safe to do so, and you can determine that, I say have the cojones, the wherewithal to gently just speak your truth.
Right. And I like you only know your situation, but it's not. I want to just put a little caveat out there about that, the safeness. And you be the judge of that. But the gay community didn't make the strides that we did, always being safe.
Right. That's absolutely true.
Right. You look back to the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, it definitely was not safe. Yeah. And somebody who came out in the 90s as a very young man, especially for the time, right? And the context, BYU, everyone. Yeah. That was smart. You just kind of sometimes have to take the risk and do it. Like we need visibility. Only you can be the judge of your situation. And if you know that your situation is highly unsafe, and I'm looking at you, people who are still living with your parents, right? Specifically with you.
Children who are living with
children who are still living with their parents.
Yeah. You can keep it quiet.
People under the age of 18.
Yeah.
Like, be really careful. Right. Yeah. But like, if you're older, come on. We need to take some risks.
We do.
So,
and those risks don't have to be in your face, being a jerk, say, when they bring up their religion saying, that's idiotic, that's stupid. No, be the cool atheist that they're like, that makes them rethink what they think atheism is about.
'Cause that is how the gay people, like, that's how we made our initial strides.
I understand that.
Fun.
But like, I'm saying this is not a directly analogous situation.
No, it's not.
So let's take the right lessons from the LGBTQ movement.
Yeah.
And just be visible. That's the main thing.
We need atheist nightclubs.
Joe wrote into us to say, I was listening to episode 650 and the Florida priest biting the woman reminded me of an incident I witnessed as a teenager at church.
Dear God.
Yeah, that's never good.
That thing shouldn't remind you of anything.
Yeah, that should be an outlier for sure. In case you weren't aware, along with lighting expensive Yankee candles, ringing bells, passing out literal flesh, that's in quotations, smoking everyone out with nasty incense, and making every Sunday leg day, they also like to make you soaking wet by sprinkling you with holy water. They use a bucket of water and this stick with a golf ball at the end and fling the holy water over everyone. One Sunday, the priest sprinkled a little too hard and chucked it at someone's head.
Oh.
Sadly, there was no laughing, only concern for the parishioner who was struck by the holy bludgeon. I don't remember my exact reaction. It wasn't laughing. My dad would have kicked my ass. But looking back on it 25 years later, I definitely get a chuckle. Yeah, accidents happen when you're making people wet. Anyway. And then John wrote into us to say, hi, Frank and Dan. I've been listening through your catalog of episodes. Oh, you poor thing. In 599, you had a nice chuckle about how the name of the LDS Church is stupid. It reminds me of a silly realization I had recently. Once in a while, I realize that common phrases have poor grammar. This is a pretty useless skill, except for producing eye rolls. So I recently realized that the grammar of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints leaves room for confusion. The confusion is, what does the phrase Latter-day Saints apply to? I think the church and everyone else assumes it applies to the church. I want to suggest to you that it can apply to Jesus Christ. I just love the image of two different Jesuses existing. One for the Mormons to keep all for themselves, and one for everyone else. Yes, it's the Church of Jesus Christ. Which Jesus Christ? The Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. I like that idea.
What was
They definitely feel like they have their own Jesus.
Yeah.
That's true.
No, I love it. And I bet the emailer enjoys diagramming sentences.
Yes.
Because that's what I loved that.
I know you did.
I know you did. That was one of my favorite lessons was.
And it is a skill that has served you well these many, many years.
It's such a pointless exercise.
What a dumb thing to do. All right. Do we have some folks to thank?
We do indeed, Dan. We have some new patrons on Patreon. People who went to our website, thankoutimatheist.com/donate and picked an option, right?
Yeah.
So we have two new teachers.
Excellent. Well done. Thank you.
We have Michael is a new teacher. And then Crystal is a new teacher because Crystal used to be a deacon.
Oh, Crystal, way to go. Way to level up.
And leveled up, exactly. So
imagine the new power that you have as a teacher.
Yeah, indeed. Well, Crystal can now listen to the Frank and Dan Diaries, so that's
there you go.
Probably pretty cool. And then we have a new elder, Dan, by the name of Espon.
All right,
maybe Spawn, but
probably Spawn. I'm gonna guess it's Spawn, but I like Espon better. So Espon, thank you so much. And Espon has the Melchizedek priesthood.
Indeed.
Which that's pretty, that's just as meaningless in real life, but in pretend life, it's pretty awesome.
It's way, 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 way better. And as always, Dan, we have our top donor to thank, our Lord and Savior, Davis.
More show coming up. Well, Frank, I wanted to bring something up here. I guess the reason that I got thinking about this, and don't worry, everybody, we're not going to be like all of your other current podcasts and spend much time on the fact that Donald Trump is a convicted criminal.
Felon.
That's it's nice.
Yeah.
And it makes me happy. But
it makes me sad, Dan.
It does?
I'm sad. I'm not sad that he's a felon, right? Like that.
We knew he was a felon.
Yeah, there's just nothing new there. I'm sad. I'm sad for America.
Yeah.
I'm just sad.
I mean,
I'm sad for democracy. I'm like the whole thing, like it felt like this thing that should have just been like dancing in the street. And I wish we had. I wish Democrats had like danced in the street over this, because that is something I do want to experience at least once in my life. But like, yeah, it's just pathetic.
Look, the fact that any justice managed to get to that guy feels like the tiniest of vindications of our justice system.
Yeah. And
so I'll take it.
We'll always have Trump is a felon, right?
Yeah.
From now on.
Yep. They can't take that from us.
Anyway,
even on appeal, there's no chance that that's going to be taken away. Mm-hmm. Anyway, but what it got me thinking about was I've been seeing, every now and then, and especially when something big happens, I go over to Truth Social, Trump's Twitter ripoff, and I just sort of check out what the vibe is, what's going on there.
Okay.
And what I've realized is that they live in a different reality with an entirely different set of facts than we do. And that's tricky because they have been, they have their own information bubble from which they do not stray.
Right.
And that has been feeding them a steady stream of this is bullshit. This is a corruption of justice. This is, they're not going and reading. Like, if you ask them, do you believe that he slept with Stormy Daniels? They'll probably say yes. And if you say, do you believe that he paid her off? They'll say yes, because they all know that happened. And then if you say, do you believe that maybe they marked the books with something other than paying off porn actor, to keep quiet? And they'd probably say yes to that. And if you ask them, does it make sense that maybe he did it so that the story didn't come out during the election? They might even say yes to that. And then if you say, so do you see that that's a crime that he was convicted of? They'll be like, travesty of justice. This wasn't against the law. It's unconstitutional, X, Y, and Z. And it's really weird when, and this also occurred on a friend of mine, a friend of mine posted on Facebook how excited she was that he was convicted. And then a friend of hers popped in to say, I hope you're not actually excited about this travesty of justice, this unconstitutional blah, blah, blah. And it's just like, oh shit. You and I don't even share, we don't share any, it's not the same reality.
Right.
We don't have the same base layer of facts to work off of.
Well, I remember when they went after Martha Stewart, right? And I mean, what a fucking sham. Right? That woman,
She did nothing.
All she wants is for our homes and meals to be beautiful.
Yeah.
That's all she wants. And
she only wants good things in the world.
And there are so many good things in Martha Stewart's world.
Yeah.
But that case that they had against her, Dan.
All she did was take information that she had and put it to good use.
Yes. Who wouldn't do that?
Stocks.
Who wouldn't? What a travesty of justice.
Right. Just because it's illegal doesn't mean she can't do it.
Because I like her.
Which seems to be the argument here.
I saw her on TV. I like her.
She's a nice lady. What are you talking about?
I guarantee you Martha Stewart's not a nice lady.
I actually have stories from a friend. Anyway, we won't get into it.
Right.
But I will say this. I think that this problem of like a different base level of facts is magnified 300% when you're talking to a religious person.
Mm-hmm.
And these days, like that's sort of, the Venn diagram of, religious people who don't make sense and right-wing Americans who don't make sense is a circle. But I've been doing TikTok lives, where I just sort of go live every now and then and interact with people. And one of the things that I've been doing for my lives is I look up articles that say things like 12 Bible scriptures to share with your atheist friends, or, it's usually something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And what I say is I'm just going to read these honestly and then tell you guys if you should actually share these with your atheist friends or not. And the answer is no, but not because, I am against proselytizing.
Mm-hmm.
Please leave us alone. But also, like, the main reason that these are terrible, terrible scriptures to share with your atheist friends is universally, without exception, at least as far, I've only read, 2 or 3 of these articles, but
mm-hmm.
none of those scriptures will mean anything to us.
Mm.
They always require you to already believe in the book in order for that verse, that scripture, that whatever, to have any meaning in our lives. And they can't see it.
Like, do you have any of them, or is it just pointless even to read? But like, I'm just kind of curious what they
let me pull
contextually
it up.
how, like, I need to hear how far off they are. Right.
All right, here we go.
Okay.
11 Bible verses for non-believers and atheist friends. This is from the Deseret News. That is the Mormon newspaper.
All right.
And it starts with John 3:16. This is the one that you'll see people like holding up in sports arenas or whatever. They just have the words John 3:16. And they hope that you'll be so curious that you'll go and look it up. It's also like on burger wrappers at like In-N-Out Burger or whatever.
Right. Is this for God so loved the world?
Yes.
Okay.
That he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth in him shall not perish but have everlasting life. I don't believe you. Like, you think you're going to lure me in with everlasting life? Show me evidence. Why would that be meaningful to me? Like, what the fuck are you talking? Like, that can only be a feel-good scripture.
Yeah.
If you already believe. If
yeah,
you don't already believe.
Yeah.
Like,
if you're like
what
a
is that
last
supposed
Christian,
to do for us?
maybe that's good for you. But that's not good for an atheist.
Yeah. What will sharing that with me do? That's not going to do anything. I'll give you another
God
one.
loved the world, Dan.
Yeah.
that he let his son be brutally murdered.
Yeah. I'll give you the next one. This one's also, I think this one is actually the one that's on the In-N-Out burger, like on your French fries or whatever.
Okay.
Revelation 3:20. And by the way, if you're sharing Revelation with your atheist friends, you're in trouble because that book is bananas. There's nothing that, like, you better hope they stick with just this verse. Because if they keep reading and it's like, and he opened the seventh seal and, you know, monsters came out of the ocean and everything turned into blood and the moon exploded and blah, blah. It's like, you're not going to convince us of anything with Revelation. But it does have this line. Behold, I stand at the door and knock. If any man hear my voice and open the door, I will come into him. I will sup with him and he with me. And that's supposed to be like, yeah, if you seek out God, God will be there. Okay. I took them up on that one. And guess what happened? Not a goddamn thing.
Already tried. Thanks.
You're in trouble with that one, you guys. Like, okay, teach me then how. He's knocking. I'll open the door. Where's the latch? Show me where this door is. I'll open it. I'll let him in. I'll have a chat. We can sup. I'm down with supping. But you just show me how. Oh, it's just in my brain. Oh, it's just in my heart. Yeah, that's not going to do it for me. That is insufficient.
Do you have Bible verses, Dan, that people should be sharing with their?
No,
oh,
I don't.
Okay, so it's the whole premise that's wrong.
I think so. I think.
Imagine my surprise.
Yeah, I think I just don't. I don't know what the problem being that, like, you first have to convince me that this book should mean anything to me,
right?
Because, like, you know, that it's a non-starter.
Yeah,
if you haven't convinced me already. But I think they genuinely can't see that.
Huh.
There are multiple of these articles out there, you know, written by pastors and written by whatever.
Yeah. Well, what do you think our equivalent is? Like, what are the things that atheists think that just would have to make sense to Christians, right? That we spout out.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the second we use the word evolution,
yeah,
we lose, you know, a solid third of Christians or whatever. Because to them, we're just talking about voodoo magic.
Yeah.
And it's impossible. And again, they have their own set of facts. You know, Ken Ham has been very successful.
Yeah.
And, you know, fucking Kent Hovind or whatever, they've been very successful at spewing out a bunch of gobbledygook that sounds good enough to them.
Yeah. Well, and I think that they know that they're muddying the waters. That's the whole point. Like,
right.
Like it's they intentionally went out to create confusion on the topic.
Right. So like, again, when you can't agree on the base facts,
yeah,
on, like, sort of if we can't all agree that, like, you know, the earth is a sphere and it rotates around the sun. If we can't agree on that,
right,
we're not going to have a good conversation about, you know, cosmology or whatever.
Sure.
Or it's just like, and I think that we as atheists need to be more cognizant of this fact that, like, we're trying to have conversations with people, and we may be assuming that they're coming from a position that at least acknowledges certain basic things that are very basic to us, that are very standard to us. And we might want to check in on that first.
Yeah, I know. But just going back to Trump, right? Like, the things that I think are so shocking are that Christians, you know, the whole Christian support of Trump is just so mind-boggling to people on the left, right? Because like like we get that they have like this, that they know they're in some sort of weird bargain, but like they fucking hated Bill Clinton for his infidelity. Right. And like the stuff that Bill Clinton was up to was pretty tame by comparison. Right. Or maybe maybe it was the same. I don't even know. Right. But
I mean, he probably like there are credible accusations beyond sort of, just beyond Monica Lewinsky.
Sure.
Lewinsky. And
but back in the 90s, that's what it was.
That's what it was.
Right.
What he was accused of and what he was impeached for
right.
was lying about having an affair.
Right. And it was, oh my God, this guy is so immoral and this guy is just terrible. And how can this be, I just need, somebody, a more moral man in the White House, right? Yeah. Than this horrible, horrible, horrible man. And you're right. Bill Clinton's crimes are, I think through a modern lens, looking back on it, it's like far worse. I mean, it's obviously far worse, right? Because I mean, it's also abuse of his power and position with a female subordinate, right? Just looking at the Monica Lewinsky situation.
There are also credible rape allegations against Bill
and so like there's bad, right? I get it. I am no fan of Bill Clinton, right? For so many reasons, even just his his fiscal policy, right?
Yeah.
And what he did to the nails in the coffin that he personally hammered into the welfare state in America, right? Yep. Like real problems with Bill Clinton. But I can also be honest about like people who like back in the 90s, I thought Bill Clinton was great. Right.
Yeah.
But I don't get Christians. They know and they accept what Trump has done.
Yeah.
Right. They know that he slept with a porn star.
Yep.
That he paid for sex with a porn star.
That he
paid her
they
to be
heard his
quiet.
voice make the grab him by the pussy comment.
Yeah. And it's just like, that's what blows my mind. That's why I can't talk to Christians, because it's like, you guys don't even believe what you believe.
Right.
You betray everything in order to get prayer in schools, to get the Supreme Court that you always wanted. You've betrayed everything that you've ever stood for. You're a bunch of fucking hypocrites. How can we have conversations that are about the direction that this country, the real problems this country faces, and the direction that the country should go, when that's who we're having to talk to?
Yeah.
How do you have that conversation with those people? Right? They will give up anything for an ounce of political power.
Well,
including their most cherished, like ideals about who their leaders should be.
Right. Yeah.
It's
because
disgusting.
Yeah, you're right. The same people in the 90s in a different sort of political and social and environment were screaming about morality and we need moral leaders in the office.
Right.
And they're, now that none of that matters to them.
Right.
So there you go. Sorry,
I undermined
what's
your
the
whole
conclusion
thing.
here? I don't even know what our conclusion is.
I feel like maybe I swooped in and was just like, there's no way to have a conversation with these people. Fuck the premise.
fuck all of this. We're nuking everything.
Dan, Dan, you go try right ahead, Dan, and try to have your little conversations.
It's all worthless. It's a fool's errand. Oh man. Well, there you go. Maybe you guys, here's what we'll say. You guys sort us out. We need your voices to help us understand what the hell we're even talking about at this point. Do you think that you can talk to Christians effectively Do you think that it's over? Do you think the dialogue is
it's
done
so over
in the world? If you do, feel free to write into us, podcast@thankgodimatheist.com.
Or call and leave us a voicemail. We'd love to hear your voice. The telephone number is 424-666-8442.
To support the show, go to thankgodimatheist.com/donate.
Our show is edited by Roger Gowdy, and music was provided by the Red Rock Hot Club and Gordon Johnston.
Thanks to everybody for tuning in. We'll talk to you again next week.
Thanks so much. Bye-bye.
Thank God I'm Atheist is a production of TGIA Media, LLC, copyright 2024, all rights reserved.